period.
I've seen the paper this morning where she changed her mind now.
You know, there you go. Sounds like my opponent. Yeah, sounds like my opponent. Exactly. But you know, she's kicked the can down the road. Don't be fooled by this. She's kicked the can down the road. Congress will come back in. They basically have a month. They're going to adjourn. They'll come back in early September and leave probably the first week of October, and that'll be it. And that's going to be passing an energy bill through both houses of Congress and get something that they agreed to in Congress and the President signed in 4 weeks is a tall, tall, tall order. I don't think it'll happen.
Oh, I think she has some caveats on that which are totally unacceptable, of course.
No doubt. And you know, I mean, she said she wouldn't let drilling happen because it was a hoax. And my response to that, if it's such a hoax, just take a vote. I mean, people are smart, they'll get it. You'll win big if it's a hoax, but it's not. I mean, those reserves are proven reserves. They'll make a difference in our economy, not today, not next year, but certainly in the next 3, 4, 5 years. And it's critically important that we start addressing that problem now and start ending our dependence on foreign oil. Yes, sir, Russ.
Quick question for you.
Coffee question.
Last time, I think the president's budget is showing something like a $425 billion deficit coming up. Discretionary spending is a relatively small portion, and the congressional earmarks is even a smaller portion of that. If you don't allow the tax cuts to expire, at least a portion of them, and you don't have that $900 billion coming in, how are you going to keep from passing the bill onto your body?
Well, I mean, I think if the $900 billion comes back in, it'll get spent. I mean, that was the lesson. We had 2 surpluses, if you remember back the last couple of years of Bill Clinton's administration, and they had that first one in '98. Alan Greenspan comes to the Hill. Congress says, "What should we do with this money?" He says, "Well, the first thing you should do, just like Rusty alludes to, is you should use it to pay down the deficit. If you find you can't do that, you should, give it back to the people with tax cuts. And the last thing you should do is use it to increase the size of government and fund government programs." A year later, another surplus. Greenspan comes back and basically says, tax cuts. You guys, you can't be trusted with this money. You didn't use it for the deficit. You drew government, so just get it out of your hands, because it's like a 5-year-old in Kmart. And it's, the tax cuts work. The thing we're going to have to, the big thing, Rusty, you hit on is we got to address the mandatory entitlement programs. The 2 big ones being Social Security and Medicare. And I think the president, to his credit, was on the right course of changing Medicare from the current pay-as-you-go system with its 1% rate of return to a sort of a privatized system where you'd have some say in how your investments are made, and you'd probably get a 4 or 5% rate of return. It was a much better. It's a transition. I mean, it's not something that happens overnight. People who are in the current system that have made their retirement plans based on the current Social Security system, they were going to be taken care of. It wasn't going to change. But for people, younger people, just starting out in the workplace, I mean, 40 years of rate of return of about 4%. That's a big chunk of change when it's all over.
Building on the same topic, what's your position on earmarks?
Earmarks, we need to eliminate earmarks. Again, we don't have, we've proven that we don't have the discipline up in the federal government to control spending. What happened, there's about 12 appropriations bills, classic Washington, D.C. thing, about 12 appropriations bills. People add, a couple billion here, a couple billion there. When it's all said and done, you've thrown on 100 more, 80, 100 more $billion. And just to show you how D.C. works, there's a famous quote from Senator Everett Dirksen that said, $1 billion here and $1 billion there, and pretty soon you're talking real money. That's the mentality up there, and we need to fight that and stop an earmarks. We need to just cut that off. We couldn't even pass a 1-year moratorium on earmarks this past cycle. Shane. Yes, sir.
I have a question. You've been quoted as being in favor of deporting illegal aliens who made criminal laws.
Yes, sir.
In the United
They
States.
commit crimes in this country.
I'd like a yes or no answer. Are you in favor of deporting people who violate the immigration laws of this country by coming across the U.S.-Mexican border illegally?
sir, at some point they're going home.
No, but are you in favor of reporting?
I mean, I am in favor of sending them home. I mean, we're not going to deport them overnight. And we've got 12, 15 million of them here working our economy. But once we secure our border and start enforcing our laws, the people are here, they're going to have to go home at some point. Orderly deportation, yes, sir.
Are you in favor of amnesty?
I am not in favor of amnesty, absolutely not. That was the problem with the '86 bill.
Absolutely. The reason I speak is because my wife is a naturalized citizen formerly from Canada. She came into this country the right way. She lived here for 5 years before she applied for citizenship, then had to obtain a sponsor who guaranteed her welfare for another 5 years. And now we're proposing giving these people citizenship for rewarding them for breaking our law.
That's exactly the point there. What it does, there are people, millions and millions of people all over the world who are playing by the rules when it comes to immigrating into our country. And if we pass an amnesty proposal or any sort of path to citizenship for people who come illegally, it basically tells those, it's just unfair, un-American. It tells those people who've been waiting, you know, you were foolish. You should have figured out a way to come over here illegally. And so they need to go home at some point. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
What can we do? I know you said it's very difficult, but how can we send a signal to Congress because drilling is very important. What they say is it'll take 3 to 5 years, 7 years. Well, if they did something 3 years ago, we'd be
Exactly. If my opponent had voted for Anwar 5 years ago, it'd be here in the market. You know, look what happened when President Bush just removed the executive order against, you know, just basically said to the world, you know, it didn't change anything. There was still a congressional law preventing drilling at the Alaska National Wildlife Refuge. When we pulled back the executive order that President Clinton signed, prices went down.
Bush has to stop drilling in Florida.
Florida is the great example of how just.
But Jeb Bush, a Republican, stopped that drilling.
It's, yeah. I mean, I have no. I have no good answer. But Florida's the great example of just how ludicrous these bans have gotten. We've prevented our companies from drilling within 135 miles or so down at the south end of Florida. You know, so the Everglades and Florida Keys, very, very beautiful part of Maryland. But all of you are familiar with world geography. There's an island nation that's about 90 miles south of Florida, a communist nation, Cuba. And they have the same rights that we do to drill and develop resources in international waters. And so what we've done is basically said what the environmentalists and the Democrats have allowed to happen is, and Republicans as well, is, you know, basically say the most technologically advanced companies in the world who have the smallest chance of having an accident cannot drill in that area. And we're going to let Fidel Castro pick Chinese companies, wherever countries he's going to look for, and who have terrible environmental records. They're going to be the ones to develop those fields. We maximize the chances of some disaster happening on the Florida Keys or the Florida Everglades. It just doesn't make any